Hey guys, today I want to show you the angel I did for my best friend's birthday in 2018 and also show you the one I did in 2019 as I'm trying to do one every year for her. As you guys can see, I already started with a sketch. That's because I created a sketch actually on my iPad before I started to do the real drawing on my Cintiq. This is kind of like the first piece where I decided to do an actual mock-up of the image before I went in all the way and did a real drawing. So I chilled on my couch, thought of what I want to do, created a mock-up that you'll see later, and then went in on my Cintiq. At first I went in with more basic lines using a very basic Photoshop brush, but later on I went in, as you can see very soon, and thickened a few of the lines, especially in the corners where they meet each other. Here you can see me adding the mock-up, and I think that the mock-up, especially here, held a lot more emotions, feelings, and more of a very nice vibe I liked. And in the end, I think some of it got lost in transition to the final piece, which I think is kind of normal and happens a lot, but it's still a little sad to me. Maybe you already noticed it, but while doing the coloring, I decided to cut out the parts where I tried to clean up all these messy overdrawings, as I didn't really use the fill-in option a lot back then. I don't even use it that often nowadays, but let's just say I didn't use it back then and didn't want you to have to watch through all the cleanup, so it's cut out. After finishing with the base colors, which I color picked from the mock-up picture in order to make it as similar as possible, as I already said, I really like it, I started to go in with more details. First the blush on the cheeks, the shoulders a little bit, and the knees, and then I went in with the shadows, also using the same color I used in the mock-up because I wanted the vibe to be the same, otherwise the mock-up would have been in vain. Even though this is a more painterly piece than others, I still went in with cell shading, as this is what I mostly do. Sometimes I like to experiment a bit and learn more of a painting style, but that's not what I wanted to do one-on-one here. So I went with cell shading and finished it with a mix of styles, so to say. For those of you who might be asking yourself what exactly I'm using for this, as you can see I'm using Photoshop, and as I said it before, last year I actually paid for Photoshop for a year because I wanted to try it, but for myself I came to the conclusion that it's not worth it. It's too much money for the use I actually get out of it, and so I cancelled the subscription and I actually switched back to Clip Studio Paint and got to use it more and learned how to use it properly. And for the hardware side of it, I already mentioned that I'm using a Cintiq. I'm using a Cintiq 16, which is a basic version of a 16-inch Cintiq that doesn't have any remote keys. I'm not someone who uses the keyboard a lot, so instead I have the remote that Wacom sells for the bigger versions of the Cintiqs. More like with the bigger version it's included, but with mine I had to buy it separately, which I did. From my experience so far using the Wacom 16-inch Cintiq, I can say that I'm very happy with it. It doesn't take up as much space as a bigger one, as I don't have a very big setup I can use, and it's good enough. But when I'm doing a screen recording with it, you can see later on when I switch to the final piece, which actually has some touch-ups as well, that the color reproduction isn't the best. So when I do a screen recording, it records the color I can see on a display, and not color the piece would actually be on a better calibrated display, which is kind of good because you can see what I'm seeing, but it's also bad because it's not the color I want it to be. But it doesn't really have any malfunctions or anything like that, just the typical Wacom software driver issues that you sometimes get. As I'm getting to the end of this painting or drawing process, I want to say thank you guys for watching, and I hope you can see a difference between the initial picture I showed at the beginning from 2018 and the new angel I did in 2019, and very much hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks, until next time!